1주년 바라만 볼 것인가? 힛.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2016 League of Legends KeSPA Cup Grand Finals. In a world where the KONGDOO Monsters make a come-behind win happen in game number 1 to take it away from the ROX Tigers, who started with a very strong start for Peanut, looked really great, until one day all that changed.
Yeah, and I mean, the Tigers' start was basically what we expected out of them, extremely explosive with that 5-man play in bottom lane, getting first blood tower, 3 kills onto Peanut, and then nothing.
Yeah, Peanut started the game, I think, 4-0 after all was said and done, but the mid lane just never really lit up. Cry was always kind of a question mark for us on that mid lane Corki, and after we knew really what champions were going to be highlighted, things like Lee Sin, things like Jin picks, things like Varus that we've seen strong all series long, well, now we're starting to see a lot of changes here for the Tigers that just really aren't working out.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the games, though, the Corki pick, we never really got to see maybe what was its purpose, because certainly did not seem to really offer enough damage, did not seem to offer enough utility, and even at the very end there, we saw Cry make a little bit of, I don't want to say amateurish move, but I guess that's what it was, where he seemed to value his own life more than saving the Nexus turrets, because I feel like the correct play at the end would have been to just suicide to get the big package on all of the minions that were coming up the mid lane, and with that preventing the push. But anyways, moving into pick and bans here, hopefully we see a more standard team composition out of the Tigers.
Nice to see the respect ban not going to give Syndra to Cry, a champion he's definitely comfortable with. The Rise ban out as well, once again against Edge, even though we haven't seen him have a strong performance on it. It's still being taken away. Interesting to see the Rumble prevented there on the Smeb might be opening up, say, a Poppy pick, but another Lee Sin ban to take that away from Punch when Rocks are on the blue side.
Yeah, and KONGDOO Monsters banning away the Syndra.
Oh, well, this is going to be okay. Well, that's a Jace ban. That leaves up so much for both teams. It'll be interesting to see what Rocks want to take right off the bat.
Well, it's just weird because we've seen the Tigers actually ban Syndra blue side, but this time they left her open.
Oh.
And, I mean, with this pick ban, yeah, I mean, you're basically implying it. Here comes Nidalee.
Oh boy, if you guys thought Peanut's Lee Sin looked good, you thought Olaf had a good job in game number 1, well, let's just prepare our bodies here because Peanut's Nidalee might just be out there on Summoner's Rift. This is a guy who just absolutely knows how to carry, and we've seen that already on Lee Sin, but Nidalee takes it to a whole nother level. So wouldn't be surprised if this is a lock-in for the Tigers. They still have a few seconds left to consider it. It is going to be locked in, whereas other teams, in fact, in the past have prioritized insta-locking Olaf. This time, Peanut's here to carry, and he will do it on Nidalee.
Yep, and this is going to be a treat to watch, and Peanut on Nidalee is going to be a very scary thing for KONGDOO Monsters to have to deal with, especially with the only junglers that are remaining are going to be Rek'Sai, Graves, Elise, Olaf. None of those can really keep up with Nidalee.
That is very true. Might see a jungler being prioritized early, but it's the Varus pick that just got switched over to that has been very highly contested, specifically because Prey is so good at it. But this time it looks like we might actually be seeing it on, well, I guess Edge most likely.
Yep, we could definitely see it on Edge. Although mid-Jhin has been played a little bit by him actually in solo queue. That's not something I would expect to see. I would probably assume that it will be the Varus mid lane.
Okay,
now
well,
hand it back over to the Tigers.
Did I miss the memo where we're going back to playing double or triple AD comps? It certainly seems like we're starting to get there. Corki's mid, now we're going to have this Varus come back, and it's an Ashe being hovered over there for Peanut for Prey. Do you think that's just in response to the Jhin?
It certainly could be in response to the Jhin because Ashe is one of the soft counters. The Karma Hover, not so sure exactly where that'll go. That can also be flexed in mid or support. The Smeb on Poppy, though, that's something that is probably good because it means that as KONGDOO Monsters responds with the Hover, Trundle is probably going to be the only likely pick with Rumble, Jace, and Echo taken off the table.
Definitely true, and while Roach does have quite a few games up there in the top lane, I think Trundle, not necessarily the pick that I would have expected from him. I would have actually thought he'd be the one to go for the Poppy, but had it taken away. So Trundle, a good counter without Quicksilver Sash removing that subjugate. We'll see if that's what works, but what has worked so well for the Rocks Tigers is this Vladimir that's being hovered.
Yeah, the Vladimir being hovered, though, makes me very nervous because if this is actually locked in, I feel like the Tigers' team composition is actually really not that good.
Really not that good.
Really, really not. I'm trying to word it in a polite way, but there is so much pressure right now on Peanut to just get so far ahead that there's no hope for KONGDOO Monsters because the gank synergy in all of these lanes is virtually absent. And so it all comes down to Peanut's ability to find ways into KONGDOO Monsters and to get ahead, because if this Rocks Tigers team composition doesn't get ahead, there's no hope.
Well, if there's one jungler who can find a way to make the impossible possible, it's Peanut. We've seen insane carry performances from him, and even in the last game that the Tigers didn't find a win in, it certainly was not a problem with Peanut, whose early game contribution was absolutely incredible to watch. So really showing up on this grand final stage. The Tigers need something from their mid lane. Maybe it's that comfort pick, Vladimir. On the other side, KONGDOO Monster find themselves with at least a power pick there for Soul, but what do you think about the rest of their lineup going into this double AD?
I mean, the KONGDOO Monsters have a very, very scary late game team composition, and it's all going to be a question of if they can get there against this Rocks Tigers one, because the Tigers, they're looking for a super explosive mid-game and for Peanut to get absolutely monstrous. If KONGDOO can make it to 30-35 minutes and the game is relatively even, I can't see a world that the Tigers don't win that isn't just some really disastrous team fight by KONGDOO.
Oh boy, well, this is coming into game number 2. This is a grand finals best of 5, so even if KONGDOO do win, Tigers still have another shot to pull it back. And coming in here, a little bit more worried than I thought I'd be here after Tigers losing game number 1. And for everybody out there who's like, you know, KONGDOO, KONG-who, where did these guys come from? They're, I think, shocking really everyone, making it from being relegated, coming here into the KeSPA Cup, and making it all the way here to the grand finals. We'll see how far they can go. Those were the Rocks Tigers. This is KONGDOO Monster. Of course, these are the grand finals coming up. Get out there, hashtag KeSPA Cup, hashtag KDM win or ROX win when it comes to voting for your teams. And here we go. Game number 2. The grand finals starts right now. Elated cheers from the crowd take us into game number 2. So now the Tigers find themselves on the blue side up against KONGDOO on the red. Now, earlier on in game number 1, we did see that first kill come in for Peanut. This time it's KONGDOO who are actually pushing forward to make their presence known.
Yeah, and this is another aggressive opening, this time coming from KONGDOO Monsters, opting to use the opening that the Tigers have used against them, except actually bringing all 5 members.
Thought Peanut was going to jump in there on the pounce. I don't know. That was not going to be the option he looked for. Backing back out, and no first blood this time around for either team. So already going to see those fans start to develop across Summoner's Rift as nothing comes here from the early game. So you mentioned for the Rocks Tigers, it's very important to either find early snowball advantages or ways into the KONGDOO jungle. Is this what they're setting up for, or what's one way that they can accomplish that?
I think that they were maybe just expecting the Tigers to try to maybe do something aggressive early on again. And so in that scenario, obviously, KONGDOO would have all 5 members, where it would be unlikely for the Tigers to have all 5. And so the setup and the little cheese attempt fails, but doesn't really matter as we just are going to have standard openings following that up.
Crop canceled by Prey running up through the river. Means Soul's a little bit damaged coming to lane.
Yeah, that's a little suspicious. Jin is one of the AD carries that can actually manage to finish Gromp even through the poke, and a lot of people still value that advantage to be worth taking a little bit of damage, so surprising to see KONGDOO stop it.
Also not committing for the kill onto Gorilla. Maybe you want to go crazy aggressive early on, but playing it a little bit safer, but taking a lot of poke for it.
And it looks like they're just trying to shove them underneath the turret, and this is a lot of poke for KONGDOO to eat early on.
In the meantime, keeping an eye on the jungle here will be very important because of how important it is for Peanut to get ahead and snowball that advantage. And for Punch, really, kind of a lot of weight on his shoulders, similar to the Cry versus Faker matchup where you really have to stand toe-to-toe. For Punch, though, he's got to stand toe-to-toe against one of the most crazy carry-oriented aggressive junglers in LCK. Here in KeSPA Cup, it's no difference, but he's actually got the higher health pool. Might be pushing in onto Peanut, but with a missed Cocoon, will be forced to back off.
Yep. And failing to get that subtle grab away from Peanut means that Punch's route is going to be able to be predicted at least for a little while.
Scattered out quite heavily, but still with a health and mana advantage. Peanut back into the jungle in the same situation for Punch, so not going to see them impactful for the time being. And with both junglers being mana junglers, we won't see those blue buffs being traded off early, as is so it was so consistent in our previous semifinal matches. So it's going to be an interesting start to this game. We do finally get a chance to see Varus in mid lane, where it has been primarily played at AD carry previously. So what do you think about this the matchup there, or maybe what this does offer for the team?
Well, I mean, it's just going to be a late-game monster. The damage that Varus offers once you reach those 4 items is just gigantic. And in the later stages, the Rox Tigers team composition doesn't really have a way to respond to poke, and they don't have a real way to respond to any sort of siege attempt following up that poke. And it's just going to be very difficult for them to work around that, or even to try to get on top of Varus when he's guarded by a Braum and a Trundle.
So this is more of a game where we're looking towards things coming together a little bit later on for KONGDOO. But for Rox Tigers, what is... I mean, we talk about needing to see Peanut get ahead. It's like, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. But what's their big objective early on?
Well, the scary thing is, how do you really gank mid lane unless Edge misplays it horribly? You can't. And if you do gank mid lane and then Elise ends up showing up and Punch actually does manage to read Peanut properly and get a counter or a match gank, you give away a kill. So then you go up to top lane and it's a red side Trundle who has a lot more room to maneuver on top side against a Nidalee, and it's more efficient for Elise to be on that side of the map than it is for Peanut. So that's inefficient as well. So the only real kill opportunities that you have are going to be in bottom lane when Prey hits level 6, but at that point, that's already the game being underway a considerable amount of time where you would already have liked to have found advantages.
Well, now Peanut deep in the enemy jungle. Okay, very shallow in the enemy jungle. My bad. Is going to be able to place a pink ward out that maybe Punch just takes out immediately with a pink ward of his own. And with both jugglers sort of reading each other pretty well at this point, Punch having the counter that he needs to keep Peanut out for the time being. I just want to see when that big explosion comes, because we got a chance to see that very early on with pre-3-minute first blood for the Rox Tigers. Now, things are going a little bit more slowly, and it's not going to be quite as easy for Peanut to find the big advantage. A scary spear thrown down towards the bottom, but nothing too crazy happening just yet. Roach not taking the trades he wants here. Smeb really dictating this lane.
Yeah, and that might go for a solo kill.
There's Subjugate to really turn that around. There's a decently large minion wave here, and Roach might just have what he needs. The turnaround from Roach to find a 1v1 for first blood on KONGDOO Monster. Is that just matchup? The misjudgment?
Unfortunately, as Smeb went for the trade, Roach hit 6. And so that was really unfortunate. But for Smeb not to flash away, I mean, it can be met by a flash, but it's still just extremely uncharacteristic. And that's not something you wanted to have happen up there in the top lane, because now Smeb's going to be under a lot of pressure, and that's not a lane Peanut wants to aid. So you can see exactly what happened where Smeb went for a trade expecting one thing, and unfortunately Subjugate turns out to be a nice alternate.
Yeah, also some minions die in lane, giving extra health to Trundle through that King's Tribute. You know, I only think a couple died, but still it can matter in those last little bits of the health bar, which is what it came down to, a very close 1v1, and Roach takes out arguably one of, if not the best top laner in Korea or even the world. Smeb miscalculating that uncharacteristically.
Yeah, and now the lane is actually going to shove back into Roach. Now, he does have a timeout, which is a little difficult to manage a freeze with, but nonetheless, I mean, it's not a lane that Peanut can really go to, and Peanut is on the left-hand side of the map. He's just going to show in mid, maybe throw a spear, maybe not. Doesn't even look like he's going to, but really, what is this Nidalee pick doing? Because it's staying even in CS against this Elise, and I know in Korea, they generally like to judge a Nidalee by her ability to stay several camps ahead or even levels, and so far Peanut hasn't been able to do that.
Certainly not, especially with the importance of his snowballing here to the team comp there for the Tigers. Keep an eye on that. Now, this is actually a little bit of a contrast. Punch giving that blue buff over away to his mid laner Edge, who does use mana. On the other side, Cry doesn't, so Peanut gets to take that camp. Top lane, though, we're coming in with another 1v1. Roach might even be looking for more. Will maybe get shut down there. He's got so much health coming back his way. He's looking to find the kill on a Peanut, who will just barely take him out.
Yeah, and that was very, very close. Peanut able to finish up the kill. So gold-wise, it is more advantageous for Tigers to have taken that. But still, that was a little too close for comfort. Cry even using his Ghost to try to get up there. So had Peanut fallen, Cry would have picked up the kill, but this is not the type of stuff that you want happening if you're the Tigers.
I mean, just Roach finding that 1v1 at the end. Smeb just couldn't get away. He did have his flash, having not used it earlier, and even that wasn't enough to save his life. Coming back towards bottom lane, where it's actually KONGDOO that have found an advantage in the shove, keeping it the pressure onto that outer turret, but I mean, what's Peanut up to?
I'm not totally sure what he is up to. They might be thinking, oh
no, Peanut, that is not the side of the wall you want to be on. If he had gotten bounced back by not being able to hop into the pillar, that would have been the sickest outplay.
Yeah.
Roach just all over that top lane.
So Roach hit a very big advantage up there, and it does look like the build of choice will be Ravenous Hydra. So he's looking to take that all the way. And that's a little bit surprising. So here in this replay, you can see Smeb going for that cute play against Roach, but really underestimating the damage that Roach had right there, and Roach still having his flash up, able to find that kill, and then Peanut almost going down here as well. Little bit of aid from the minions. Ooh, trying to hurt Peanut, but in the end, Roach falls. But the Ravenous Hydra is actually surprising to me because they have so much damage and control that come out of Jhin and Varus that really all Trundle would need to do is have that Titanic Hydra and stack resistances. But instead, he's opting into the Ravenous.
Yeah, so he's, like you said, going all the way with it, trying to take this small advantage and turn it into a bigger one. When really, like you said, all you got to do, keep Peanut from getting a crazy lead and then scale on into victory. So he's put his carry pants on. We'll see if he can push it a little bit further, as now we see both teams kind of grouping up for a little bit. Both junglers down on the bottom half of the map. Supports roaming up towards that dragon area. Now it looks like heading down. Peanut back into his own jungle. Punch still in his.
And at this point, Prey already having his ultimate, Gorilla having his ultimate. The lane is shoving into the Tigers.
Yeah, both AD carries with ultimates of their own, a perfect repel, but nowhere to go except right back down. A nice glacial fissure to keep rocks in the tri-brush, and here's the curtain call to maybe usher them back out. We've got shots being fired on to Peanut, but not enough damage being taken, and with Edge missing those chains of corruption, this might be the turnaround that Peanut and the rest of the Tigers are looking for. Prey, though, has got a team coming back his way, and KONGDOO are forced to flash defensively to just desperately try to survive. It's Peanut getting one. Peanut gets a second. He might be looking for more, but he's out of mana, and the Rocks Tigers disengaged after finding 2 kills for their jungler.
Yeah, and these are the type of fights that the Tigers need to find ways to take. And KONGDOO overextending a little too much there.
Oh my
when
God.
Cry had arrived, it just got too dangerous. And while it's not the biggest loss for KONGDOO, they definitely don't want to keep having these things happen. So as you can see here, when Cry shows up to the fight, it's a little too much for KONGDOO to be able to handle. Soul trying to get a little kill on Trey right there, but not able to find one because the heal had come out. And at this point, Peanut gets a double kill. They can't find anything else, but that's pretty all right. This is what the Tigers need to be doing. They need to be finding kills like this. They need to continue keep accelerating. 3 kills on Peanut. He had this in game number 1, but then he didn't really do anything with that lead, so we'll see if he can do it here in game 2.
Well, and Nidalee, a very snowball-y champion in her own right, so it will certainly be exciting to see what that potential is. Also should be noted, he's 20 CS up on Punch at this point, so not just the active advantage, the passive advantage as well from just getting more gold from the jungle, which I guess is active too, but it's more of a stat, not necessarily going out there and finding these big, old kills. Peanut in a good spot, but the rest of his team, at least in game number 1, you saw Cry struggle. This time, it's Smeb kind of struggling, losing those 1v1s multiple times. And we saw what happens when it's only the Peanut show. It's just not enough.
Little pull going on there on Peanut, able to heal that up. And one of the things that the last fight had absent from it is Roach's presence. And the Trundle is a very crucial part of the KONGDOO Monsters team composition. Even though he is going pure damage at this point in time, he's still going to act as the front line and the healer in the later stages of the game. And that's also the point where the Tigers team composition just begins to fall off.
Here at the 15-minute mark, we're starting to get to the point where the Tigers really need to turn on the pressure and utilize their team comp to the fullest to stop KONGDOO from being able to get through it unscathed to the late game where they will scale like monsters. There's an arrow. We'll hit in onto Cougar, who just gets stopped at the last second in a 1v3. We'll see who they funnel this kill for. Is Peanut to take his 4th.
Peanut getting the 4th kill. Let's see what he can do with it. It looks like the Tigers are now electing to take this Water Dragon, and that'll actually certainly help them later on, at least a little bit, sustaining against the Pope.
Going for these objectives, Peanut taking the kill, now just turning that into a Water Dragon takedown for the Rox Tigers. At this point, you can see kind of deliberately, Rox Tigers are really just throwing all of their eggs in the Peanut basket. Now, I mean, to me, having witnessed what he can do on his Lee Sin earlier on in the tournament, and that seems like a pretty viable strategy, but it is certainly a lot of pressure, not just on the individual, but also on the team comp to go for one that will just get outscaled eventually.
And a little bit of trading happening, and Cougar now trying to maybe get some vision around the deeper side of Peanut's jungle.
Lots of damage here on this lower turret. First Blood turret still has yet to be taken, so KONGDOO can get that. That will give them a little bit of extra gold towards their late game objective. But here comes Peanut once again in a 1v1 where definitely wants to turn this back around. There's the knock, him immediately flashed out, even almost before Roach hit the ground. Spear coming forward, but Roach high enough health to avoid getting dove, although Peanut might have other ideas. Roach in a 2v1 does not have the subjugate defensive bonuses anymore. So this might be another dive if Peanut wants to force it. Instead, channeling the recall as the minion wave evaporates under turret.
Yep, and Punch was headed up to top lane if Peanut and Smeb wanted to take this a little bit further. But doesn't look like there's going to be any fight happening up here, which I'm surprised at. I thought they would actually try to force Roach further off the tower and try to get that first blood tower for their team, because right now the clock is ticking in bottom lane. We know that the bottom tier 1 turret for the Tigers is actually almost gone.
Very close to being taken out, but Gorilla and Prey will be in a great spot to try to prevent that from happening. Cougar's going to face check right into them immediately. There's the channel teleport to start things off. Here comes Peanut down with a miss on the arrow, though. It's only going to be 1 kill, and this one goes to Smeb.
This one goes to Smeb indeed. Roach trying to get that tower, and it's going to be a little bit of a race.
Oh, who's going to get the first turret takedown? It's the Tigers.
And that's a very big pickup, because Roach getting first blood tower gold on that Trundle would have been disastrous. And it looks like they're going to actually bring this even further up. Punch is here, though.
Big AoE shield there. The Defiance to try to stop it. The flash, it's a headbutt into the wall. Immediately, Peanut there to capitalize. Not going to be the defense that KONGDOO Monsters were looking for. They do lose their jungler. It's going to be a body slam, not a headbutt. No Alistar in this game. But either way, the defense is good for now.
Yep. And Cole is back here as well as Edge, so they do have a lot of wave clear. The Tigers really want this turret, though.
And they find it. Cougar very low, but he will get just barely healed up enough to survive. No spear hitting to land, and not going to turn that one around there either. Once again, need to correct that. It's a heroic charge, not a Gragas in the game either. But either way, nice to see Smeb being the one to get in there, get the kill, and we're going to take another look at his crazy engage.
Yeah, so Punch basically getting deleted right there by Peanut and Smeb. Really good reaction time on the follow-up, and the teleport coming in from Roach, trying to do a little bit of damage to Gorilla and Prey. Meanwhile, the curtain call on Smeb did basically nothing for them. I feel if the curtain call had been angled different to maybe synergize with Roach, they could have gotten something a little better out of that. But you saw that the Tigers really wanted to get that turret down because, again, it goes back to the team comp and what they need to do. While they are ahead right now and they do have a gold lead, I don't know if it's really enough, all things considered, because you expect them to raise all the turrets. You expect them to get monstrous leads. But they don't really have any turret penetrating abilities outside of landing an Italy Spear or some all-in dive attempt with Vladimir and Ashe.
I mean, Smeb was the one to go for that all-in dive attempt, but now with a pick on Roach in action, we'll see how good he is at surviving and living up to his name. And there's a spear to land as Peanut gets the shield to go on in. Turret's still alive here. We will see Subjugate used to steal those defense, get that health back from Smeb. Roach is just a monster, almost unkillable. Gets knocked up there and finally goes down after a tried-and-true dive committal up to the top lane by the Tigers. In the meantime, they'll lose their outer mid lane turret. Was that worth it in the end?
Gold-wise, it's going to be worth it because they're going to be able to pick up the top turret now in response to that. So it's not like they're losing too much. But Rift Herald dying right there. No one able to pick it up this game. So Baron is going to be on the map right now. And neither team really in a position to take it. And with all these turrets falling, it really just condenses the area that KONGDOO have to defend from, and they're completely content with doing that because the onus is on the Tigers, again, to find a way to end the game soon, because the longer it goes on, the more the clock is just ticking against the Tigers.
Certainly is. While they do still have that advantage, we'll look to see how they want to force it. Turret being poked down on little by little. Cry looked like he was maybe going for more, but just enough threat being posed to take down that tier 2 on the bottom side of the map. And now Rocks rotate towards the mid lane, look to push their advantage further. Are they ahead enough at this point, LS?
Well, I don't really feel like they are. And, you know, I feel like at this point, with the mid lane turret still being up and
Edge, nice unbreakable to try to keep him alive, but channeling right in the middle of everything. He will go down. It's Peanut to find the jump in for the kill. He will turn it right back around and find a counter kill on the opposing AD carry. I didn't actually see that counter coming as Prey walks too far forward and gets taken out.
Yeah, and what is this dragon going to be? Everyone moving down towards it. Another water dragon. So that's actually going to be very good for their team composition, primarily because of how much poke KONGDOO monsters do have.
Rod of Ages, the second item built there by Peanut. We'll talk more about that as we get in through this replay. Edge just getting caught out.
Yeah, Edge getting hit by that arrow. Fortunately, though, they were able to turn around at least one kill. So it's a trade in the end, and they're able to hold on to their turret. But they do end up losing the dragon as we go back to 5. And the gold lead is only 4.5 thousand at 22 minutes. And I mean, I can't speak about it enough, but the Tigers team comp, I feel like the lead that they would want to have or need to have needs to be bigger. And also, all of that gold is funneled into Peanut. If he goes down somehow in a team fight, the Rocks, the rest of their team just don't actually have any ammunition.
Okay, well, Punch is being beset there by Smeb with Peanut to come up and an Ash arrow that will land on to Punch. Unbreakable to try to protect him once again, but Cougar just can't make it. It's going to be the strong getting stronger as Peanut finds one kill. Can he grab a second one? And he will! A 9-0 Nidalee in the jungle for the Rocks Tigers. The Peanut show has no intermission.
Yeah, Peanut is now at a point where they're going to get Baron, and I mean, if you would have asked me the question, is Rocks ahead enough? Now they certainly are with this Baron buff, because I don't think that KONGDOO is currently equipped to really resist the Baron siege at 23 minutes.
And this is that advantage you were talking about, just hammering it home. Peanut just will not take no for an answer. No curtain call there to stop any recalls. The Smeb just blocks it for the rest of his team. And let's take another look at this big pick. Perfect arrow by Prey.
Yeah, Prey's arrow has been fantastic this game, and picking up the kill onto Punch and then able to find another one onto Googer. Peanut has just been fantastic at securing these kills and making sure that his lead isn't going to waste. Level 14 also in that clip. Punch only level 12, 2-level advantage is pretty big as well.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to being pretty big, I feel like the level advantage, Peanut just in general, and the lead that the Tigers have secured themselves all in that same category is now Baron buff in hand at the 23-minute mark. They try to push on forward. Now, double Ocean Drake, how does that really, what is the major objective, advantage rather, that gives the Tigers in this situation?
A lot of the counter poke attempts, or maybe attempts at using curtain calls to dissuade the Tigers from continuing their siege, I feel at this point is all going to be removed, because it's not just the Ocean Drake healing up the other members of the Tigers. It's also replenishing Peanut's mana, which he can then use to heal up other members. So lots of heals coming out of Sustain. And KONGDOO, they don't have the items yet where the Varus is really that threatening, or the Jhin is really that threatening, to where they can just leave someone from the fight.
Yeah, no second tier items, or second big items really being completed on either of them, and he's content to let these towers fall. Arrow lands onto Googer, no unbreakable just yet. He'll get burst down immediately with Cry going forward for the kill. More spears to come out, and that'll hit onto Edge in the back line, and really just not a lot that KONGDOO can do to stop these turrets from dropping. Minion wave will finally get evaporated as Rocks look for the disengage, but with almost 2 minutes left on their Baron buff, they're going to get another shot.
Yep. They're going to get another shot indeed, and right now without Googer, this is pretty problematic.
Here we
have that unbreakable.
Yeah, here they go. Smeb going to get in on to Saul, will knock him up there at the end. Cry with a big flash forward, and Hemoplague's going to take Saul out. A nice face of the mountain shield to keep the KONGDOO AD carry alive, but is it going to be enough to turn this one back around? Now, another big Monster Defiance shield to keep all of Rocks healthy. Enough pressure in on to KONGDOO to take the first inhibitor of the game at 25 minutes.
Yep. And that is going to be an 11,000 gold lead for the Tigers here at 25 minutes. I mean, at this point, I would like to just see Smeb go for a Guardian Angel, and even Peanut as well, because that would enable them to go so much more aggressive against those turrets without the Baron minions.
Baron minions are still out there for almost 30 more seconds, or just over 30 more seconds. Let's take another look at this huge engage.
Yep. So right here, Prey landing yet another arrow onto Googer, and with him being removed from the fight, you can see Cry coming to try to get into this, but he doesn't actually go in on the KONGDOO monsters for a little bit longer, but it doesn't really matter because without Googer, you don't really have a way at sustaining against the Middle East spears, and you don't have a way of really locking up the Tigers at all.
Baron will finally expire. We'll see if Rocks can get anything off of just the last little bit. Need to watch out here for these pillars, but I think the bigger thing to watch for on KONGDOO is going to be Ash Arrows. Sprays have been insanely good. Every little pick leading to kills. Most of those pills haven't gone Peanut's way, that's why he can position so aggressively off to the side. And along with Cry, diving the back line has been something they've both been so adept at doing. How do you find that through all of the linebackering for Edge and Soul? Spears continuing to land. Now, Cry doesn't have his flash, but he does have his ghost, and they're just being zoned off their own tower.
Peanut with the taunt on that Nidalee.
Here goes Smeb with a big two-man knockup in the back line, and the Rocks Tigers pile on through, ready to pounce on every surviving member, but Roach is up in the front lines, dishing out a lot of damage, backed up in the back by Edge, who's content to poke things out. The inhibitor will still fall. Can KONGDOO find any kills to turn this back around in their favor? Looks like the answer is no. That double Ocean Drake coming up in a big way. Yep.
And now they're going to back off after Peanut counter jungles all of Punch's jungle.
Takes everything along with him. A 10-0-1 Nidalee. I mean, you just can't deny this guy. And a big engage from Smeb once again.
Yeah, the engage from Smeb followed up by that Ash Arrow from Trey. Soul going down immediately, and at this point they just turn back and they try to get the inhibitor. And you can see that Varus damage, it's coming out, but it's just not yet there, and the Tigers are so far ahead that the KONGDOO monsters, they don't have a way to respond to these all-in dives that the Tigers are just doing over and over.
4,300 Baron power play gold advantage there for the Tigers to put them over 10,000 gold in the lead here as we get into the late game, which is where we talked about KONGDOO being the strong ones. Well, turns out Tigers had other plans, especially when it comes to their jungle. Now, you were actually highlighting earlier, LS, what happens when Peanut goes down. However, it looks like that's a little bit too difficult for KONGDOO to do at this point. Is that still a viable occurrence?
Well, Peanut, the way that he's itemizing is completely glass cannon, so there's still a chance of removing him from the fight. But, I mean, at this point, with so many towers that they have, it's unlikely that the other members of the Tigers aren't able to offer damage now as well.
Oh my goodness. Spears continuing to land. There's another engage onto Cougar. Luckily this time, he does have that Unbreakable up before he does go down. So Glacial Fissure defensively just trying to keep this last remaining inhibitor turret alive. It's not going to be alive any longer. It's the final inhibitor of the game. Being seized here by the Tigers, they will start the damage with no engage to happen. They take it down and turn this game into a 7v5.
And it looks like they'll actually look for the end game push right here. Baron up though in 30 seconds, so this isn't completely necessary.
Trying to get caught out just a little bit, but Punch is just so weak in the backline. Memphis exhausted after going in, so he will be pushed backwards. But Cry diving the backline once again there. It's Soul to take the entire brunt of the damage. He's going to die from that Hemo Plague, and it's going to be a double for Cry. He's in the backline finding just everything he could possibly want, while Roach and the rest of KONGDOO will survive. It's not going to last much longer. The Rocks Tigers crush through this base with an immortal super minion enabled by Smeb's teleport. He will knock everyone back to the fountain they're standing in front of. The Nexus turrets will fall. The Rocks Tigers will find revenge for game number 1 to even up the series at 1-1 with a 16-3 victory over the KONGDOO Monsters.
Yep, and that was basically a victory that they really needed. They did not want to go down 0-2, and I kept saying throughout the game that I was really worried about their team composition, but Peanut never let up, and they kept finding the cracks in KONGDOO Monsters' armor, and they never let them have any sort of a chance to recover in this game.
I know you guys like chicken advertisements, but there's no commercial breaks here for the Peanut Show. It just keeps going. You've been watching for like 2 straight hours, but you can't leave because he's still just going off, and a testament to to the strength that having a strong jungler offers your team. Just insane to watch his carry potential when he needed to, talking about the team composition and how that was an essential part to their success.
Yeah, and I mean, in this game, another thing that really struck me as a little bizarre, and I mean, just checking out this replay, look at Cry going in. At this point, he is way too gigantic. Soul's not even canceling the curtain call. He knew it was all over for him, and the damage was just too much, and the lead was overwhelming for KONGDOO, and they just succumbed to it right here in this game. But going back to it, Peanut's Nidalee was so on fire at so many points, and this is not a champion that you can let him have.
Well, there you saw the KeSPA Cup. That's what both of these teams are fighting for. We'll find out who can take a lead in our best of 5 grand final series when we come back from a short commercial break. So get out there, tell your friends to watch. If you're not, then get in here. Game number 3 starts right after a short break, so don't go anywhere.